The Cardinals are looking to fill some holes this offseason. Catcher, shortstop, starting pitching, perhaps maybe a left-handed bat. You've heard who I think the team should target. How about we get someone on the outside looking in to give us a little more perspective? It's going to be a crossover episode today with the one and only Sully from Locked On MLB on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD Hafron. I'm a national radio sports anchor, born and raised in the Lou, and a lifetime Cardinals fan. And I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter at JD Sports Radio. Follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. I want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals and Locked On MLB your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. You can subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast. On YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and comment so you can interact with us. Hit that notification button so you know when the new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans in baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. So the offseason is off and running. We've had a couple of deals made here. Nothing major has really happened just yet. Specifically with the Cardinals, they haven't really done much at all. We're waiting for the big bomb to drop. Is at least that's what we're hoping for as Cardinals fans. We want to see a major move happen. We want to see something go down at catcher or shortstop, starting pitching. Maybe that left-handed bat they've been talking about, a veteran left-handed bat that can hit righties better. Things like that are on the Cardinals shopping list this offseason. And we've talked a lot about the big names that are at each of those positions that perhaps could end up in a Cardinal uniform next year. But I would like to talk to somebody, at least I thought it'd be a good idea to bring somebody in who is not exactly with the Cardinals, isn't always thinking Cardinals, but is a man of baseball altogether. Somebody who could give us a little perspective, like I said, from the outside looking in on what the Cardinals need to be doing this offseason. And I couldn't think of a better person to bring on for this episode than our own Paul Francis Sullivan. We call him Sully from Locked On MLB. Sully, how we feeling here today, brother?
I'm doing great, but your lower third's much bigger than mine. Okay, good. Get that out of there. I was having lower third envy there. By the way, everyone listening to on my feed, on the Locked On MLB feed, this is kind of fun that I'm the guest today. I've been hosting a bunch of these, and it's fun to have the pressure off me a little bit and sit in the guest chair. So this is also this is a crossover. This is going to be on both the on MLB and Locked On Cardinals feed. Those of you who don't know me, I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been podcasting for the last more than 10 years, and I've done a couple thousand episodes just today. But yeah, I love my baseball. I've never been to St. Louis. I've been to many of the great baseball stadiums. For whatever reason, I just haven't made it to St. Louis yet. I'm dying to go there because it's obviously it's a great baseball city. I've been to Kansas City, but that's not St. Louis. For those of you wondering,
close.
It's close. It was in Missouri.
Yeah.
Why isn't it Missouri City and Kansas City on the other side? Why is there Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri?
I don't know. That's one of life's major mysteries. We have no idea. We have St. Louis and an East St. Louis in St. Louis. The East St. Louis is over in Illinois.
Well, I get that. West New York is in New Jersey. I mean, I understand that, but I mean, come on, let's get down to it. Before we go on about the future, I just wanted to say, at one point I picked during August, I said the Cardinals are going to win the World Series, and the reason I said that was I thought they obviously the two best players, or the players having the two best seasons. I got to phrase things carefully in the National League with Arenado and Goldschmidt. The trade they made with Quintana and Montgomery were both terrific. And I thought this is a deep team. I thought this was a team that was poised to make a long run. And if you had told me that a team that had to play in the World Series that was not a 100-win team going to win the National League pennant, I was going to say, well, obviously, it's not going to be the Phillies or the Padres. It's obviously going to be the St. Louis Cardinals. And they were up 2-bagel on in the opening day of the wild card series. I really just sat back and thought, well, this is it. They're going to I stood by my prediction. And here we go. I mean, that you talk about, like, when you look back at a postseason, there are these little moments where an alternate universe could have happened if one thing went this way or the other. Cardinals hold on to that game 1 lead in the 9th inning instead of coughing up 6 runs. I'm convinced they win one of the next 2 games. I'm also convinced that they beat Atlanta, and if they want to play San Diego, then I think. Do I think they would have beaten Houston? I don't know, but this year the playoffs showed that anything was possible. But I'm absolutely gobsmacked that it was 2-0 for this really good team.
Yeah. It was a team too that kind of limped into the playoffs, which had a lot of us concerned, at least offensively, is where they were kind of struggling.
The Phillies. That's
true. Yeah, it's true. Goldie and Arenado, who basically ran the show. I mean, you had Albert doing his thing in the second half, but as far as the whole season, it was Goldie and Arenado, the Goldenado show, as we called it, and both of them struggled mightily down the stretch, and then they just couldn't get it right. And it's a 2-game series. It was what it ends up being. So not a lot of time to fix whatever was broken that was going on with them at the plate. But at the same time, like you're 2-0, and you've got one of the best closers in baseball coming on, and just poof, and it was gone just like that. And I was floored. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
And there was a furtive that was happening there. Again, I'm not a Cardinals fan. I'm a fan of baseball. And the idea of the 3 guys who were from the 2006 team, Molina, Pujols, and Wainwright. I can't say 2011 because Wainwright was hurt that year. But the band getting back together for one last hurrah, that was a really fun storyline. And I was looking forward to seeing that, go through. It's so funny when you look at, 2000, with only 1 or 2 years in there, the Cardinals have been in the playoffs almost every year. I mean, ending or right down the stretch. They're down. The downtime in St. Louis has been, whether it's being a wild card situation like they were last year or winning the division as they did this year. And you look at these teams, and probably the 2 worst teams were the ones that won the World Series. So you think 06 and 11 were years where Cardinal fans were the happiest. But 05 was a great team. 09 was an incredibly fun team. The year in 2015, the team was tremendous. And no one's going to remember those obscure footnote seasons because they clamor for the 06 team, of which Anthony Reyes started game 1 of the World Series. It's so funny that the teams that get loved for posterity are not always the best teams. And I think this year was a great example. Obviously, you saw 300 win teams in the National League, and none of them got to the League Championship Series. So obviously, you had 3 wonderful teams that got the knees taken out from under them. But this was a team that I think, had they made a long playoff run, would be remembered as a really beloved team because it was saying goodbye to Yachty. But it was also, you weren't expecting this kind of reunion from Pujols. You thought it was going to be him showing up. Okay, it's kind of as a shell of his former self. But, it's kind of like Willie Mays' final years with them. Like, okay, there you go. Got to see a 700th home run hit.
Yeah.
And then just having like an Albert Bell giving Fernando Vino a forearm shiver. This was that was the 1990 Indians reference, and they were called the Indians then.
Yes, they were. And Vino was not a Cardinal, then he was a Brewer, if I remember correctly.
The Brewers were in the American League back then.
Yeah,
but it's funny. This would have been, if this team, even the pennant, this would have been one of those teams that people love and remember. It's so funny which of the teams that become the ones that get embraced, and which are the ones that will fall to, fall to obscurity.
Yeah, it was. It felt like it was almost a meant to be. Everybody thought the fairy tale ending was going to happen, that they would at least make a decent run in the playoffs, and then to have the rug pulled out from under them and just out and two was shocking. And it took a couple days for myself to get over, and I think a lot of Cardinal fans felt the same way. We were like, wait a minute, we're not going to see number 4, number 5 out there ever again. Like, it's over. Like, that was it, and they're gone. And it was sad to see him go out that way. But as you mentioned, a lot of great memories, not only throughout the entire careers for both of them, but even this past season. Yachty wasn't so much, but he got to set the record with Wainwright. He set the put-out record for himself at catcher. So there were great moments for Yachty, even though he had a down year on the offensive side. But the second half where Albert will be talked about for decades with Cardinals fans, because that was incredible.
It is a surefire bet that these people, the U Cardinal fans, are going to just cherish being able to say goodbye to Albert correctly. Is something you're all going to cherish. And by the way, if you're going to make any bets, where should you go? I think you should go to betonline.net.
That's a good idea, Sully.
Yeah. If only we had a banner to put up right now.
Look at the skills.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info. Easy for you to say. Stats, news, and analysis. JD, I'm a little tongue-tied. This is your podcast. Why don't you tell us about BetOnline?
Well, betonline.net is where you can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From football to basketball to soccer and esports, they've got it all at betonline.net. Always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Now, last night, Sully, I talked about how the Eagles, being an 11-point favorite, didn't seem like such a bad bet because they had dominated the Commanders in their first meeting together. And then what happens? Of course, the Commanders go out and win, and them their first defeat of the season. I don't know how many people saw that coming, but I should have known better, because it was a division game and things are crazy right now in the NFC East. So the Commanders come out on top. So hopefully, if you were smart, you put your money on the Commanders with that monster spread and made some money. Got a fresh slate of NFL games that are set to go again this week. We'll begin on Thursday night with my Green Bay Packers, Sully, hosting the Tennessee Titans. The Packers coming off the shocking win over the Cowboys. Nobody thought it could happen, including myself. I had no idea that was going to come, and it ended up happening. So now the Packers are actually 3-point favorites over the Titans in Green Bay for Thursday Night Football. So if you're interested in putting a bet on that game or any of the other sports, head to the website today, or you can use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. All right, Sully, we got to fix some holes that are on this Cardinals roster right now. As of right now, of this recording, they haven't made any moves except for trading for a minor league infielder. That's all they've done so far. But they've been in discussions with a lot of rumors that have been swirling around on the MLB pages and on the podcasts and on talk shows. So I want to start with the catching position, because that seems to be their number one target right now is catcher. There's free agents, and then there's trades. And there's two guys from each side that I want to bring up to you and get your thoughts on there. First, we'll start with the free agents, who will only cost you money. Okay. Willson Contreras, formerly of the Cubs, who doesn't appear to sign. I don't know if he's said no to the qualifying offer yet. I didn't notice that or not, but we don't think he will. And then Christian Vazquez, who was just the catcher for the world champion Astros. Both of them are free agents. And what are your thoughts on Willson Contreras if he commands what we think he's going to get is close to $20 million a season? How do you feel about Willson Contreras as a fit in St. Louis?
I think he's going to be a fine fit. I think there's a better fit elsewhere that will cost you prospects. Okay. But, Vazquez and Contreras, postseason experience, both have been on the big stage. You want to have someone who is this is a win now team. This Cardinal team, they're not in the middle of rebuild. But it's been since 2013. It's about to be the 10th anniversary of their last pennant, which, for a lot of teams, that's boo-hoo time. But for the Cardinals, who have been to the League Championship Series, since then, they're in the League Championship Series in 2014 when they lost to San Francisco, 2019 when they lost to the Washington Nationals. They couldn't make it out of the wild card game last year against LA, nor the series against San Diego. They haven't advanced since being swept by the Washington Nationals in the NLCS for in 2019. So this is an elite franchise, a franchise whose fan base expects to be a real pennant contender. I got to move forward a little bit. This is a different seat that I normally sit on. I'm not in my traditional seat. Not that you need me to pull back the curtain that much, but you're wondering, my foot is sound asleep. This is a win now team. And so a Contreras or a Vazquez are win now solutions at catcher. And when you start saying how much will this and how much will this affect the team if it's a longer term deal, you can't think like that right now. This team has over this hill. This team has to make it to the next level. And I'm preaching this like crazy in Locked On MLB. My listeners will probably be tired of me saying this. If we learned something this year, we found out that signing good players is a good strategy to win. Even if
hold on. Let me write that down. Hold on.
Well, you would think that would be an obvious thing, but you see all these people, we're going to try it the Rays style, i.e. to be cheap. And then you saw what San Diego and Philadelphia are meeting the NLCS just a couple of years after saying, is nobody going to sign these generational talents? All right, maybe we should do it. And so, the Cardinals are going to be in a situation where, we're not sure what the Mets are going to be next year. The Mets pushed all the chips in the center of the table for this season, and they won 100 games, but they couldn't get past the Padres. This is a Cardinal team that sacrificed a ton of the future to bring in Aaron Otto, to bring in Goldschmidt, to bring in the players who will be the foundation of the next pennant winner. But they still haven't had a pennant winner since Michael Wacha was a rookie. So, they need to pull the trigger on a couple of things there. The player who I think would be the best fit there, long-term and short-term, is Sean Murphy. And I know a lot of who's the Oakland A's catcher, their fine catcher, who's 27 years old, i.e. ancient in Oakland. And he is a fine hitter, a very good catcher, young enough that if you're saying, all right, we're going to sacrifice some young players, it's worth it to bring someone like him because you're going to get more than 1 year out of him. He's going to get a lot of attention from a lot of different teams, but that doesn't mean the Cardinals shouldn't be front and center. And we've seen how aggressive that they can be. I mean, they have the top two NL MVP candidates who were imported from Colorado and Arizona. They could be aggressive. And now's the time to be aggressive again. I don't think Murphy's an MVP candidate, but he's a potential perennial all-star. And the A's are going to, trade him because he asked for more than $5.75 an hour. So
we talked to
he's the player who I would focus. He solves a lot of issues on the team and would be a good long-term solution. I think better long-term solution than Contreras or Vazquez. Neither of them I think are bad choices, but Murphy I think should be the top.
Now, the question that we have about Sean Murphy, because nobody disputes that he would be a good fit. He seems like a Cardinal type of player, not a lot of flash, does his job, does it very well. Is what would it take to get him out of Oakland? And we were talking with Berkey over at Locked On A's, and he thinks that, because there's, like you mentioned, there's going to be some competition of people trying to pull him out of Oakland, that it might take somebody like the Cardinals' top shortstop prospect and their number 2 overall prospect in their system, a Mason Wynn type of player, to get him to, to make that as the top offer to get his services. Is anything like that? Yeah. Is anything like that seem like that's too much to give away? Because some Cardinal fans will say, well, he's too good of a prospect to give up. But I say no as well.
Really? Okay. Talk to Matt Laporta. the big prospect in the CC Matthew. There's
I remember
always
that.
be prospects. So we had heard about Juan Soto. It was worth getting this. Juan Soto was worth any prospect because he was, first of all, the same age as the prospects you were trading away, and is a better player. This is a guy in his mid-20s or late 20s. This is not a 35-year-old, with his knees being replaced. Yeah, you're going to have to give up something to get him. But what's the name of the shortstop prospect?
Mason Wynn. And by the way, Mason Wynn hasn't made it past Double-A yet. Had a good season.
What are we
is
even
likely
talking
headed
about?
to Triple-A. I know. That's how I put it, too.
I mean, yes, people will point to Jeremy Pena and say, oh, well, the Astros lost Correa, but they had Pena, who had the fine season and became the World Series MVP. It should have been for Ember Valdez, but the had an unbelievable postseason. Fine,
right?
That's the outlier. Most time, prospects that people cling to, like a koala, don't turn into the great superstars that you're thinking of. And this is a win now team,
right?
And by the way,
absolutely.
By the way, guess the agent again, Carlos Correa, who I think would fit in great in St. Louis.
And I do want to talk about that. Yeah, I want to talk about that because that's the thing.
And Correa's floating out.
Because they got a guy by the name of Tommy Edman, who's pretty darn good himself, Gold Glover at second base, moved over to shortstop because of the lack of production they got out of Paul DeJong this year. Probably would have won the Gold Glove at shortstop had he played enough games there, but because he had split, Swanson ends up taking it, and Edman has to go into the finalists for the utility role, which he didn't win, and lost to Brendan Donovan of the Cardinals, who won the Gold Glove there, who will probably be your starting second baseman if they don't make a move at shortstop. And that's the position I want to go to next year, Sully, is the shortstop position. Before we get to it, we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, from the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. So you brought up Carlos Correa, one of four major free agents at the shortstop position. You've got him. You've got Xander Bogaerts, who opted out from Boston. Dansby Swanson, who was just with the Braves. And then Trea Turner, who is a free agent coming from the Dodgers. Carlos Correa, you think out of those four that he would be the best fit for the Cardinals if they were to go after one of these free agents?
Yeah, I do. I think he's the best overall talent. I think he brings the most to it. I also think Trea Turner is going to the Phillies, so I think he's a great fit with Philadelphia. The native New Englander in me is grinding my teeth, but I think Xander Bogaerts is heading to Los Angeles to replace Trea Turner. I think Baltimore is going to be making a run at one of these. I actually think Dansby Swanson is going to go back to Atlanta. I think he's the best fit in Atlanta. He's from Atlanta, and not that really matters, but I think all parties will agree that that's the best fit for him. Correa, obviously, he had the weird year he had with Minnesota, and we know he's not going to go back to Houston. I don't think he's going to go to L.A. He could go to the Yankees, but the Yankees are going to be so involved in the Aaron Judge situation that it may take them out of it. I think Correa is a fantastic fit, Cardinals. And just you mentioned Edman and what's his name?
Donovan.
Donovan, thank you. To having the intense depth with the corners that they have, add Correa, then you'll just have amazing depth around that infield. And before anyone says, where are they all going to play? Just wait. Someone's going to get hurt. Or someone will need a rest. They always do. And whenever I hear, well, there's not enough room for them, there will be enough room. Just
you find room for good players.
Yeah, and also there's always an injury. There's always a need. But I just think to have Correa, Goldschmidt, and Arenado be the foundation of your infield, you have an opportunity to do that. You do it. And if they trade, look at, I predicted he was going to go to Baltimore. Baltimore wants to spend money. Baltimore wants to take the bad taste out of the mouth where people were disappointed that they traded away players at the trade deadline when they're only a few games out of a wild card spot.
Right.
Baltimore is a sleeping giant of a fan base and is just waiting to explode. And having a player like Correa show up right around the time that they're selling season tickets would go a long way. But if I were the Cardinals, don't sleep on this. Don't have yet another. This is why I brought up Harper and I brought up Machado. You have an elite player who was floating around, available after spring training started, and wound up taking a 1-year deal with the Twins. You sign players like that.
Yeah.
And you could have 3 potential MVP candidates in your infield, of which none of them will be homegrown.
Right.
Yet no one will ever say that, oh, those Cardinals, they steal all these players. But they'll say that about the Yankees. Well, the Yankees have made a grand total of 1 major free agent signing in the last 7 or 8 years. But I digress. Murphy and Correa heading to this Cardinal team, I think would be that would be my wish list if I were a Cardinal fan.
Yeah, and Correa, in case people are wondering and don't pay enough attention to him since he's been over in the AL, was a Rookie of the Year winner, won a World Series, 2-time All-Star. He's a Gold Glove and Platinum Glove winner, so we know he can flash the leather. He's got a cannon for an arm at shortstop. You could essentially, if that was the direction the Cardinals decided to go in, you would have 5-time Gold Glover and Goldschmidt at first. You got the 10-time guy in Arenado sitting over there at third base, 6-time Platinum Award winner. Then you'd have Correa with his power, offense, and defense combination at shortstop. And then you got Tommy Edman, who just won the Gold Glove the previous year at second base. And you go back to where he's the most comfortable at. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Now all you got to have is the front office to actually pay for it.
Well, they should.
Is really the issue. So that's that's something that it makes a lot of sense. And yet we for years and years and the Cardinals just don't seem to go out. They make trades for big guys, like you mentioned, Goldie and Nolan, but they don't really make a splash in free agency very often. But they talked about having the payroll go up this year. That they mentioned that in their GM meeting. They're like, payroll's going up because all of you guys showed out this year and came out 3.3 million, best home attendance behind the Dodgers. So you deserve it. We're gonna bump it up. But they've never said how much it's going to go up yet. And Correa is not going to be cheap, obviously.
He's not going to be cheap, but what could come about from it is, why are we doing this? We
want to win.
This will be the 10th anniversary of the last time the Cardinals played the World Series.
Yeah.
And put it in that way, a decade.
Yeah.
And Cardinal fans are devoted. Cardinals fans are great fans. And it's a great organization that always puts a winner. Actually, Sally, they had a losing record. Shut up. They almost always, since the turn of the century, they've almost always had a team. 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004, 2005, 2006, 2009, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015.
Consistent.
20. Were they in 2018? No, they weren't in 2018, but they were in 2019. No. They got to the LCS in 2019, 2020, COVID, 2021, last year, the wildcard game, and this year. So that's a lot of playoff appearances. So now they got to ratchet up a little. They need a new 2006 or 2011. Wait, no, yeah, okay, yeah. This was the 11th anniversary of their last deal, and they won the pennant in 2013. They lost to Boston.
But I think we're on the same page here where it's time to put your chips in and let's go. You've got the funds. Yeah. You can do this. You can sign one of these guys. You have the capability. It's not like St. Louis is a tough sell. So
yeah. And you have the top 2 MVPs. As of this recording, they haven't named which Cardinal is going to win. But you didn't make those deals with Colorado and Arizona because you were hoping to get contend for a wild card spot. You made those deals because you wanted the next big Cardinal championship to happen. So let's go. You need a hole at shortstop. Guess what? There are 4 or 5 potential
Studs.
all-stars that all you have to
Yeah.
do is give them some of that money. And
Yeah.
guess what? Yeah, they don't make the big splash with the free agents, but they didn't acquire Arenado and then let him walk after a year. They acquired him with a
Right.
gigantic contract attached that he signed when he was in Denver. They
Yeah.
traded for Goldschmidt and have a gigantic contract extension with him. So what's the difference? They
Yeah.
have
No,
spent
there's
money.
none. That's true. That's true. That's true. It's free agent market is where they normally just kind of they kind of settle for second, third, fourth type of thing. But that's why we're hoping this year is the year that they'll finally make that moment where they're like, okay, you know what? We're going all in and we're going to go take down, get Sean Murphy for a few prospects. And then maybe one of these shortstops. Another direction they can go, Sully, I want to throw these in here real quick before we wrap up, is the starting rotation. They got a lot of good like number 2s and number 3s that fill out the top 5. They haven't had a real ace since like the Wainwright prime and the Chris Carpenter days. That's really been the last time they had like a true ace. Couple of guys that are available this year, not really at that level, but a Carlos Rodon or a Chris Bassitt, Jameson, Taillon. Those are some names that have been kicked around. Maybe even bringing Jose Quintana back and dealing one of these other starting pitchers that you got. Are any of those names, do they fit what you think would work for the Cardinals?
I mean, they'd all be fine. I mean, I don't look at Eddie. I mean, bring back Quintana. He gave him a nice year. Rodon, I'd be a nice fit. Taillon makes me nervous. He pitched well for New York this year, but he's such an injury risk. I would be nervous to sign him to any long-term deal. I mean, I have up here MLB.com's top prospects for them. Mason Wynn, 20 years old, he's his shortstop. Jordan Walker. Their top pitching prospect is Gordon Graceffo, who pitched in Double-A Springfield. He's probably not going to be ready until next year, maybe the year after.
Right.
But I would, I would hoard my pitching prospects. If I were them, I mean, let's go. I mean, if you look at some of the top free agents who are, starting pitchers, I mean, Kershaw's not going anywhere. DeGrom's going to go to Texas. Bassitt and, I mean, do you take a flyer on Kluber? I mean, there's the biggest ace potentially available is Carlos Rodon.
Right.
I would take a stab at him. It would not stun to see if the Mets lost DeGrom. It wouldn't stun me if they turned around and try to, sign Rodon to sort of.
Sure.
First of all, it's the same. His name sounds similar, and which you need to have. But that would be a gigantic hole you'd have to fill. I mean, that'd be a gut punch for Met fans who just love Jacob DeGrom. But yeah, I mean, there's no big time ace in the middle there. But how many big time aces are there left? I mean, we don't grow aces anymore. I mean, it's for monetary. It's for money reasons that you don't let anyone go past the 5th or 6th inning because they see how expensive it is to sign a big name. Scherzer and Verlander are still commanding $20 million a year. And when was the last time a Verlander or Scherzer has been developed? I mean, Alcantara of the Marlins is like the exception rather than the rule. Why can't the Cardinals get pitchers like Sandy Alcantara?
I don't
know. For those of you
man.
who don't get that joke, Sandy Alcantara was a farmhand for the Cardinals, and I think actually played a little bit. Had a cup of coffee with the Cardinals, and now he's going to inevitably win the Cy Young.
Yeah.
If they could find,
we shipped him.
if you could pick up like someone like a Sandy Alcantara and maybe a Randy Arozarena, those types of players, just the Cardinals, where they just can't find players like that.
Maybe toss in a Zach Gallen. He was also a guy that they could have used, right?
Was he in the Goldschmidt trade though?
No, he was actually not a part of that one. He was also a part of the Alcantara deal. Like he went that way, and then they shipped him out after that.
You'd like to be Superman and spin the world back and redo that one. But to be fair, the Cardinals have made a lot of great trades over the last few years. So
that's normally what I tell people. I was like, they've won more than they've lost. Okay, they've
so
lost
you
a
can't
couple.
just focus on the negative there.
Yeah,
So.
but they've got a Goldie and an Arenado at the corners right now, and they really dominated those trades. And that was another reason why I thought the Sean Murphy thing with the A's would be a likely scenario, because they've had a relationship with Oakland over the years of making deals, and the Cardinals have won these deals. I mean, getting Matt Holliday out of Oakland, getting Mark McGwire out of Oakland, those things have worked out. Mark Mulder, even though he got hurt, they did pretty well in that trade. They lost Dan Herron, but it wasn't nothing major. If Mulder hadn't gotten injured, you had an ace right there in your rotation. So I don't know. Well, we're excited and we're hoping for big things, but let's put it on paper right now. Sully's way to improve and put the Cardinals in the elite level with these other teams would be to trade for Sean Murphy and sign Carlos Correa. Those are your moves.
And I would take a flyer on, to see if Rodon would come over. Bassitt. I mean, a bunch of guys, whether it's Bassitt or Sean Manaea, take a flyer on them, but don't expect them to suddenly, to be Chris Carpenter in their prime.
Right.
So but maybe, I mean, that's been kind of the name of the game, is to get a bunch of pitchers who can go 5 or 6 innings and, cross your fingers. I hope someday, this is old man Sully here, I just like pitchers going deeper into games because it puts their thumbprint on the game, for their personality. I made a suggestion on my podcast, which is called Lockdown MLB, which is available wherever you get your podcasts, that if we're going to have our star pitchers only going 5 innings, have it be the final 5 instead of starting their headlining. And it sort of puts the pressure on the team to you got to get your runs in, because DeGrom's going to come in the 4th.
DeGrom's got 5 in him today. You guys are in trouble.
Well, that would be the last pull of Madison Bumgarner in Game 7 of the World Series, or Pedro Martinez in Game 5 of the Division Series in 1999, where they came in and finished the final 5 or 6 innings. Give that a shot.
Yeah,
I got a million ideas, and 3 of them are good.
Well, Sully looking to flip the script on how the entire pitching rotation goes, where you start with relievers and you end with starters. Does that make sense? Something like that. Well, hey, you don't know. You don't know until you try, right, Sully? You don't know. You don't know. Could work. It could work. All right, man. Well, this has worked. I appreciate you coming by here tonight and giving us your insight on what the Cardinals should do. And it's hard to disagree with anything you said, to be honest. Normally I try to poke little holes in things, but the Sean Murphy thing, I think a lot of us are on board for. It took a little time for me to get to that, but the more I thought about it, was the more like what you said, where this is a win now time, and if you have to give up a double-A shortstop and a couple other minor leaguers to go get your catcher who could be your catcher for the next 5 to 7 years and be really, really good at it, why wouldn't you do that? That makes perfect sense.
Think about it. You trade some of those young players to Oakland. By the time they're developed, you can trade for them because the A's are going to try to dump their salary.
You can get them back. It'll be great.
Oh, my friends in Oakland, my many, many friends in Oakland are going to be mad at me for that. But that's what it's about. So,
hey, it's the truth.
All right, but hey, JD, thanks for having me aboard. I really appreciate this.
Not a problem at all, my friend. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals and Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. As always, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Twitter at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Obviously, you've got Sully right there at Sully Baseball. What's the Locked On MLB Twitter? What's that one?
We're at Locked On MLB Pods on both Twitter and on Instagram, and I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram.
There you go. You guys are the best fans of baseball for a reason. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.